There are powerful men in history. Julius Caesar, Alexander the Great, Napoleon, and then there's Genghis Khan. The man who started with nothing, no money, no army, not even a tent, and somehow ended up running the largest land empire the world has ever seen. This dude went from being a starving, abandoned kid to the human equivalent of a natural disaster. Except instead of hurricanes, he sent horsemen. And they were very efficient at ruining your day. So how did a homeless kid from the middle of nowhere become the CEO of world domination? Grab your yak milk, buckle your saddles, and let's ride. Genghis Khan's real name was Temujin, born sometime around 1162 in the middle of Mongolia. You know, the country everyone forgets exists until it's time to look impressive on risk. He was born to a tribal chief named Yesugai and his wife Holin. Sounds fancy, right? Well, yes, for about 5 minutes. When Temujin was 9 years old, his dad got invited to a friendly dinner by a rival tribe. Spoiler alert, it was not friendly. They poisoned him faster than a YouTuber gets demonetized. And just like that, the family lost everything. His tribe was like, yeah, sorry kid, no father, no protection, we're out. So little Temujin, his mom, and his siblings were left in the freezing steppe, alone. They had no food, no shelter, no DoorDash, just vibes and frostbite. They survived by eating roots, rats, and occasionally whatever was unlucky enough to wander too close. It was basically Mongolian Bear Grylls, except no cameras and much more trauma. And because history loves irony, the kid who'd one day lead millions started life as the most unwanted person on the continent. Oh, and there was that one time he killed his own half-brother over food. Look, I'm not saying it was right, but when you've been eating bark for dinner, morals are flexible. Fast forward a few years, Temujin's luck somehow gets worse. He gets captured by a rival tribe, the Taichud, and turned into a slave. They throw a wooden collar around his neck so he can't run, like a medieval dog cone of shame. He spends years like this, humiliated and powerless, until one night, while his captors were too busy being dumb, he knocks out a guard and escapes into the wilderness. Imagine the cinematic slow motion, a young Temujin sprinting through the snow, chains rattling, dramatic music swelling. Except instead of music, it's probably just wind and screaming. He finally makes it back to his mother, and from that moment on, Temujin isn't just surviving, he's plotting. You see, slavery taught him two things. People are terrible. If you ever get power, you make sure no one can take it again. Mongolia back then wasn't one big country. It was more like a group chat with 200 angry people all arguing about who gets the last horse. Tribes raided each other constantly, and loyalty lasted about as long as your phone battery during a road trip. Temujin realized something nobody else had. If he could unite the tribes, they could stop wasting time killing each other and start killing literally everyone else. But how do you get a bunch of backstabbing horsemen to cooperate? Temujin went full influencer mode. He started building alliances, marrying strategically, and offering a new idea. Hey, what if we actually follow laws? Crazy, right? He made a legal code called the Yasa, which banned stealing, adultery, and betraying allies. He even promoted people based on merit instead of family lines, which, at the time, was revolutionary. Because most warlords were like, you're my cousin? Here's an army. Temujin was like, you can shoot a bird midair while riding a horse? Wow. You're in charge now. And slowly, people started to believe in him. They saw that under Temujin, your horse mattered more than your bloodline. That's when the unthinkable happened. He united the Mongol tribes, and they crowned him Genghis Khan, meaning universal ruler. So yeah, imagine you're a bunch of people who can't stop fighting, and suddenly the homeless kid you bullied in 3rd grade now owns the country. Awkward. Now that he had Mongolia, Genghis looked around and said, I wonder what else I can take. Answer: everything. The first stop, China. Back then, China was split into dynasties, each thinking they were the smartest people alive. Spoiler, not for long. Genghis sent envoys to open trade. The Chinese killed him. Big mistake. You don't ghost Genghis Khan. He came back with 200,000 horsemen and absolutely deleted northern China. We're talking walls turned to dust, cities flattened, population Control-Alt-Delete. And the thing is, he wasn't just good at fighting, he was terrifyingly smart about it. He used psychological warfare before it was cool. If a city surrendered, he spared them. If they resisted, he made an example out of them and left survivors to spread the fear. He even created spy networks, used fake retreats, and communicated using relay riders that worked faster than ancient email. The man basically invented logistics before Amazon did. Let's take inventory. 1 horse per soldier and backup horses. A self-updating communication network. Military units organized into groups of 10, 100, 1,000, and 10,000. Absolute loyalty. No nonsense. Disobey orders? You're out. Permanently. Steal from civilians? You're also out. Permanently. But if you fought bravely and followed the rules, you got rich. Genghis rewarded loyalty and punished betrayal so efficiently, HR departments today could learn a thing or two. His soldiers respected him not because of fear, but because he shared their hardships. He ate the same food, wore the same clothes, and rode alongside them. He wasn't above them, he was one of them. And when you're leaders like that, you'll follow him to the ends of the earth. Once China was taken care of, Genghis decided to swing west, because why not? He invaded Central Asia, Persia, and even Eastern Europe. His armies traveled thousands of miles, burned cities that resisted, and built one of the most terrifying reputations in history. In one campaign alone, he wiped out an entire Persian city because the local ruler insulted his messengers. Imagine starting World War III because someone left you on red. But to be fair, and weirdly impressive, his empire also stabilized trade and communication across Asia. The Silk Road reopened. You could travel from Korea to the Middle East safely for the first time in centuries. He created a postal system, standardized weights and measures, and even granted religious freedom. Yes, you heard that right. The guy who conquered half the world was also like, worship whatever you want, just don't commit tax evasion. Genghis Khan, warlord, reformer, part-time philosopher. For all his brilliance, Genghis wasn't exactly the best dad. He had several wives and dozens of children, and each one thought they were the favorite. You can probably guess how that went. By the time he was old, his sons were fighting over who'd inherit the empire. It was like succession, but everyone had swords and zero chill. Genghis tried to keep the peace, but the cracks were showing. Even he couldn't fix family drama. During one of his last campaigns in 1227, he fell from his horse and got injured. Some say he died from the wound, others say illness. One version even claims he was killed by lightning, which honestly would have been the most on-brand way to go out. Before he died, he gave one last order: bury me in secret. So his soldiers carried out the world's most dramatic funeral. They killed anyone who saw the procession and then killed themselves. That's not an ending, that's a legend. After his death, his sons and grandsons went wild. They expanded the empire even further, into Russia, the Middle East, and Eastern Europe. At its peak, The Mongol Empire covered over 24 million square kilometers and ruled nearly a quarter of the world's population. For reference, that's bigger than Rome, Britain, and Disney combined. Trade flourished, culture spread, and some historians argue that Genghis accidentally helped create the modern world. Though, to be fair, he also caused more destruction than any one person before him. But hey, can't make an omelet without breaking a few civilizations, right? Now, here's the kicker. Modern genetic studies show that about 1 in every 200 men alive today is directly descended from Genghis Khan. That's around 16 million men. So if you've ever dated a guy who called himself an alpha male, there's a 0.5% chance he's technically right. It's safe to say Genghis left a legacy, a very reproductive one.